The next contest in the Better Photography Weekly Challenge is Enchanting Long Exposure. Our judge and mentor is Anish Sheikh. An alumnus of D.Y. Patil College of Engineering, Anis began his career in photography over a decade ago. His passion for motorcycles, automobiles, and picture making led him to Overdrive, India's leading automotive magazine. Currently, he's working as the photo editor as well as heading the film department at Overdrive. Hello, Anis.
Hi. Hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Hi, guys.
So, would you like to take us to your presentation?
Yeah, sure thing. So, hi, guys. This is Anis, and tonight's whole session is all about long exposure photography. I'm going to walk you through the techniques, the details, and few tricks, and I'm going to show you some examples also. So, I guess, yeah. Let's start with this long exposure, time exposure, slow shutter photography, long duration shutter speed wala photography. So, there are multiple names by which you can call this whole method. Okay, so it's basically we capture the static subjects sharp, and the elements or the subjects which are in the motion, those will be blurred, those will be smearing, those will be obscuring. So it's basically you open your camera ka shutter, open your camera ka sensor, like exposed to the light for the longer period, which is not possible in the conventional photography. Understood? So yeah, let's go to the next slide. This is just the example which we clicked in Uttarakhand. We wanted to show the Milky Way and the stars in front of the Himalayas, and we wanted to shoot the car along with the stargazing. So it has this image itself. It has multiple elements where you can see the mountains behind. That's part of the Upper Himalayas. You can see the my main subject, which is the car, this Renault Triber. Then we are doing the stargazing. So I have one explorer buddy along with the telescope, and then there's this host. So there are multiple elements like which I have composed in such a way that the subject of priority should be more. Yeah. So what exactly is slow shutter photography? What's the long exposure? So this method involves a long duration shutter speed to sharply capture the stagnant or stationary elements while blurring out or smearing out the elements which are in motion. For example, let's take a waterfall. So waterfall में जो कुछ भी stones है या फिर backdrop वाला image है, जो कुछ भी landscape है, that's not moving at all. The only moving thing in that frame or in that scene is the water is flowing, right? So if we take a slow shutter photo of that scenery, the output image will show the water in the motion, but the other parts which are not in the motion, which are stationary, those will be sharp because those are not going anywhere, right? So that can be one good example of slow shutter photography. The significant difference between the regular or what do you call it, the conventional photography, whatever the old school photography is, between that and the long exposure photography is basically you have more time to capture the light, you have more time to expose the sensor. So the exposure of extended period of the time. So that's what slow shutter photography is. We're gonna talk about the tools which we need for the slow shutter photography. It's not like that we can't. You need certain tools which are very important in this field of photography. First, you need a camera which has manual controls. Basically, you need manual shutter control where you will be able to control the shutter speed of the camera. Now, these days, if we talk about smartphones, they also come with the pro mode, like which mode has ability to control your ISO, your shutter speed, your aperture also. Uh, yeah, so you can use your DSLR, you can use your smartphones. Second is the tripod or stand where you're gonna keep your camera stable. Yeah, that's the most important part. Then we come across the ND filter, like neutral density filters. Neutral density filters are basically used for darkening the images. In better words, you can say that to cut down the light. Then you need patience because slow shutter photography takes time. The amount of time which you invest in clicking one picture, it can go from 30 seconds to few hours. So your patience is needed. That's the most key, that's the most important key factor in this whole process. Uh, Yeah, so we're gonna talk. I'm gonna walk you through these types or these applications of slow shutter photography. There are multiple factors which get involved in these type of applications. So I'm gonna walk you through this. The first part is star trail photography. Second is night photography, light painting, and water and long exposure. Now let's talk about star trail photography. You must have seen the pictures जहाँ पे आपको मोशन ब्लर मिल रहा है स्टार्स में. You have seen the pictures जहाँ पे stars या मिल्की वे विजिबल है. You can see the trails, light trails. You must have seen some satellite passing, or like recently जो meteor था, meteor का meteor fall वाला images है. So these are all these all come under star trail photography. Okay, so I'll explain you part by part कि star trail photography होती क्या है, right? Then yeah, so you can see the slide star trail photography. In this picture what I have done is this image we have clicked in multiple parts. I took the foreground wala picture where the car is parked in the evening after the sunset. Then we waited till the nightfall, and we clicked multiple images throughout the night for the next 3.5 hours, and then we stitched it together to create this motion blur. So capturing the motion of the stars, which is, see, this, it's a natural phenomena, right? Our earth rotates, उसकी वजह से stars move होते हैं. What I did was just kept my camera in a single frame which is static, and obviously you can see the things which are not moving. Like with respect to the camera, मेरा ground तो static ही रहेगा बराबर. Only the sky will move, only the stars का motion will come. So this is just the outcome of that. Longer the exposure, longer the arcs. For example, अगर ये same picture मैंने 30 सेकंड का लिया रहता था या फिर 1 मिनट का लिया रहता था, तो उतना लंबा ट्रेल मुझे नहीं मिल सकता था. This is somewhere around 2.5 hours का exposure collectively. Okay, so yeah, that's the example of star trail photography. Then we're going to talk about the night photography, obviously, which is like the longer exposure. Usually you must have any DSLR owner, uh, जैसा ही कैमरा नया रहता है, यू ट्राई थिंग्स कि स्लो शटर पे कैमरा डाल के देखते हैं रात के शॉट्स कैसे आते हैं या अंधेरे में फोटोज कैसे खींच सकते हैं. So yeah, this is just that part where you put your exposure forcefully to the slower shutter, जहाँ पे लाइट नहीं है मेरे पास देयर इज नो नॉट इनफ लाइट to click a picture at regular shutter speeds. For example, this picture, it can be produced in 15 seconds of 15 seconds of exposure time, right? So the longer the exposure, the better image quality you'll get, the better colors you'll get, because more the light, more the details. The shorter the exposure you'll put, आपको ISO bump करना पड़ेगा. The more the ISO, you'll get more noise, you'll get more grains. So it's recommended that you always opt for the lower ISO and the higher, the longer shutter speeds. So yeah, always remember, more light, more info. That basically your camera is always a recorder. It's like a bin जहाँ पे light collect हो रहा है. The longer you open, the longer you expose your shutter, the more light and more details you'll capture. So the next image and the next slide is light painting. This has been clicked by one of my seniors, Suresh Narayanan, who used to work with Overdrive pehle. So yeah, this scene. So the whole story behind this image is it's an off-road car. So we have parked it in a such way to show its off-road capabilities. Now to add the drama, now to add a little bit drama to this scene, what we have done. अगर रात का ये same picture without light arrays अगर रहता था या without steel wool के use के साथ अगर लिया नहीं रहता था, तो this would have just looked like a regular shot कि गाड़ी का बस आप ऑफ रोड कैपेबिलिटीज दिखा रहे हो. Now in this image, what we have done is we tied the steel wool to a string and rotated it in a such motion, obviously जिसके sparks बाहर fly over. Now if you put your camera to somewhere around like 10 seconds or 30 seconds for that matter, you'll get these nice trails. So this can be a good example to uh, get your image in this way. The steel wools, you know, that बर्तन घिसने वाला जो material आता है, which you can grab it at a local grocery shop, so that you can use it for the same shot. You just have to light it up and then rotate it using a string. That's it. It's a काफी easy technique. Put your camera on the tripod, park your car, or yeah, it can be anything. It can be आप वहाँ पे बंदे को भी खड़ा कर सकते हो. You can put any subject behind, in the foreground and do this motion. So यहाँ पे the motion was like this in the vertical manner. If you can manage to do it horizontally, there are multiple examples on the internet that you will find जहाँ पे it has become like a light ka umbrella. So you can do this also. The other part, we are heading up to the water and long exposure. The same thing I explained in the first part, जहाँ पे पानी मूव हो रहा है, मेरे पत्थर static है. So in this image you can see the stones, or the background which is not moving. This elements which are not moving, the elements which are static, they have come out sharp. The water, the tendency of water, like obviously water जब flow होता है, obviously it leaves some bubbles behind. There's turbulence. So if you put your camera on the slow shutter, आपका turbulence repetitively image पे light reflect करते रहेगा. That gets you the nice misty, that milky wala effect, right? So yeah, that's how you click. You put your camera on the shutter speed of 2 seconds, 3 seconds. That can get you this effect. If you put it on the longer shutter speeds, for example, if I put the same if I put the same scene with the longer shutter speeds, for example, if I put it on a minute of exposure, you'll see the water has gone transparent. You can see, the water will turn into a glass. It won't look this white. This is like a typical certain 10 to 15 seconds or 2 to 3 seconds wala exposure where you can see the turbulence. But after a point, अगर मैं light का मेरा capturing अगर बढ़ाता हूँ, the longer the duration, if I increase that, the water will turn into a glass. Obviously the light is getting reflected from the bottom, like of that surface of that stream. वो भी light मेरा camera capture करने वाला है. So you can try that too. You can have multiple types of images within the same frame, just by changing your shutter speeds, like slow shutter to much longer slower shutter. So yeah, so this was just traditional photography. We're gonna talk about unconventional side. And when unconventional side comes into the picture, the modes of capturing the image, the camera stationary है नहीं है, camera कौन सा use किया है. People are using smartphones these days. So there are multiple factors. It's a mix and match of the whole like every technique is just like mixed in this whole segment. So I'll walk you through few images. Uh, yeah, so this shot has been taken from a phone from a airplane ka window. I kept it on the shutter speed of 8 seconds with ISO of 800, somewhere around 800 to 1600. Then I've later processed it to make it a little bit darker, like toning down the shadows and all. I've kept the phone stable, like kept it against the window, held it for next 8 seconds while capturing, and this was the result. In this image you can see a plane ka wing जहाँ पे light lit up हुआ है, and नीचे you can see the Chennai city जहाँ पे city lights motion blur में they are creating a pattern, they are creating a nice texture. There are multiple colors where you can see red का hues मिल रहा है, green का hues मिल रहा है, yellow का hues मिल रहा है. The plane was turning over the city, it was taking a turn. So yeah, I thought that it was a nice moment to click a slow shutter picture. So this is one example. There's another example जहाँ पे plane turn करते हुए altitude gain कर रहा है. That's the second frame which you can see. यहाँ पे you can see the vibrations in the uh, window, or like the vibrations of the plane. जहाँ पे plane straight line में up नहीं हुआ है. You can see the altitude partially धीरे धीरे gain हो रहा है. So that's why that motion blur has those data lines. So we'll get to the next image. Yeah, these images have been captured, like completely captured on the phone with the shutter speeds of 1 by 30, 1 by 60, which is not a longer shutter speed, but still comes under a slower shutter speed category. So in the first image, I was sitting in the cab. I was trying to take a tracking shot of the samne wala cab. What I did was I again held the camera against the windscreen पे camera मैंने अच्छे से hold किया, so that मेरा और सामने वाला गाड़ी relatively same speed में चले और slow shutter पे दोनों चीजें static रहे. while the rest of the background or the buildings or the road you can see which is motion blurred. So this is just the byproduct of that, like 1 by 30 seconds ISO lowest possible, whatever. See, obviously when I'm clicking on a DSLR, I can change my aperture, I can play with my aperture, I can change it to n different levels. Like I can go from 1.8, 1.4 to 1 f22. But with the smartphones you have certain aperture, so you can play with 1.4, 1.2, or 2.8 or 2.4, not more than that. Like these days the cell phone cameras are made for capturing good amount of light at the time of night in the dark situations. So just put your phone ka camera on aperture 2.4 or 2.8, whatever maximum, like whatever smaller aperture is available, and put your camera on the slow shutter speed. That's it. uh, Talking about the second shot, it's a panning shot where I panned my camera along with the motion of the car, where I've got the front. So basically, I wanted to capture the car, like the whole car in the sharper way, but I couldn't. I just focused it on the bonnet and the samne ka grill wala part with the same shutter speed, 1 by 20, if I'm not wrong, 1 by 20, 1 by 25, and panned the camera along the path of the car. So yeah, in this scene, you can clearly see bonnet and the grill is काफी sharp. The headlights are also sharp, but the rest of the image, which have gone into the smearing wala, smudgy wala blur, that adds up the drama, which emphasizes speed, which shows that the vehicle is in the motion or some action is happening. So it's completely up to you to build a story around that. Or yeah, it's more of storytelling, moody wala shot. So yeah, that's it. That is what you can do with your phone. So, and these are just random examples which I have clicked throughout my journey, throughout the work I do every day. I'm not a street photographer. I'm an automotive photographer, but these are just examples which you can, which are handy, and which you can do it like just by while walking on the road. So yeah, during this pandemic, just try to be safe, wear your mask, and then head out for this adventure. Yeah, so let's head to the next slide where I'm going to talk about others work. So yeah, in this image, so what has happened यहाँ पे, it looks like a shot which have been taken from a telephoto lens. It doesn't look like a wide angle lens. Telephoto lens पे दिख रहा है. यहाँ पे the backdrop and the foreground are in different motions. So backdrop अगर right की तरफ जा रहा है frame के, my foreground is moving towards the left. Okay, so in this case, what I can think, like, if you ask me to explain this image, what I can say is the photographer is sitting in a car or a buggy which are moving in circles. Okay, what he has done is he has put his camera on a telephoto, focused it on a, basically this looks like some grass or field on a certain point which is foreground और background के center में. मेरा focus foreground और background के exact center में. So my relate, and he has uh, kept his camera focused on the certain part, like the part which is in the center, which is like thirds पे, अगर rule of thirds पे अगर देखा जाए तो lower third में जो part है वहाँ पे मेरा focus है, and the vehicle is moving in a left or right direction, like any which, like if you consider, like, if the vehicle is moving in the left direction, so you can see the motion blur. But photographer has tricked us uh, by keeping his focus on that lower thirds वाला area. So relatively अगर मेरा foreground left में move हो रहा है तो मेरा background right में move होएगा. So this whole uh, it's this whole how do you say this, it has created a drama, it has created a story, this whole melancholy of the motion, that uh, those lines, those leading lines, those blurry and smudgy lines create that nice ghosting, that nice tranquil effect. So yeah, that is what you can try. Like for example, if you are sitting in a bus and you're seeing कि भाई साइड में बहुत सारा चीजें पास हो रहा है, एलिमेंट्स पास हो रहा है, फॉर एग्जांपल ग्रास पास हो रहा है, या बस के हाइट पे अगर कुछ दिख रहा है वो चीजें पास हो रही है, just make sure you don't focus on the foreground wala cheez. Just shift your focus and the follow angle a little bit behind and I'm damn sure that you will be able to click exactly what this guy has clicked. So yeah, that's how you can, that is what I can explain with this image. Let's take the next image, the same photographer. So this is another slow shutter photo, which I can see that it mostly looks like a handheld shot, because the railing which is on the right, it has motion. You can see the double shadows and double highlights. The element is repeated. On the left hand side you can see the railing which is single. Okay, and then you can see humanly bodies. You can see a person, you can see a person who's holding an umbrella, but yeah, obviously they are exiting the scene. You can see the nice light falling from the top, that smudgy, that nice blurry effect which has come in this image. It's just a result of slow shutter photography. I mean, in this image, if you ask me, I can stare at this image just to figure out what exactly is happening in this. The amount of time I'll spend, it's intense. This image is intense. Basically, whenever you want to click a nice picture, you want your viewers to indulge in that image, right? Yeah, that is what is happening right now. So yeah, that's that's most of the part I can explain. Yeah, let's go to the next image. This one, this the same image जहाँ पे मेरा subject, मेरा camera दोनों move हो रहा है in a horizontal motion. Yeah, so if you can notice in the screen also, because of the low light, you can see the motion blur happening. So that is what has happened here. The subject, the photographer, both are in motion. They are following each other in this pattern. So where you can see the curvature of the motion blur, which is like behind. Like for example, this shot has been taken in a afternoon, where behind there's a tree, जहाँ पे foliage के बीच में से आने वाला जो light है, उसकी वजह से if you see on the rule of thirds ka grid mein, if you see the top right wala part where you can see the motion is curvy. That means the background mein uh, it looks like a tree foliage ka shade, and the my subject is standing in front of the tree, and he has panned the camera in such a way, in this pattern, not in a straight way, in this pattern. You can see those blurry lines. You can always predict, you can always replicate a slow shutter shot just by looking at the lines, just by looking at the blurry lines. It's maybe foreground mein, if you see foreground mein, you can see blurry motion blur, and then top mein you can see the sharper motion blur. That means the focus is somewhere on the top. So that is what I can decipher from this image. Now, storytelling part, it's completely up to you, looking at the model, looking at the subject and the elements behind, how to build a story around it. So let's go to the next image. Yeah, this one. This is also another slow shutter wala picture, where you can see the motion blur in a curvy manner. You can see if you divide this image in the vertical thirds, on the दोनों थर्ड्स का golden points के नीचे you can see those vertical V-shaped blurry lines. So that's how the photographer has panned the camera, and the rest of it is just that little boy standing at the beach, or I don't know, I guess it's the beach, and I can spot a mountain behind. It mostly looks like a night shot, where फ्रेम के लेफ्ट से लाइट आ रहा है, उसके शैडोज राइट में गिर रहे हैं, that looks like a sand का texture below, and the guy is standing in the center. It creates a drama, it creates a ghostly image. It makes me think, what's happening in this image. It gives me some uh, memories from the past, or memories from my dreams. So yeah, that's so you can create stories, you can add out blur, you can create the blurry motion wala elements also by using slow shutter photography. So yeah, next image. And yeah, these images have been clicked on phone. So that's completely up to you to try it out. I mean, yeah, everybody has phones these days, and most of the photographers, as we know, like we have camera specific phones. So yeah, it's totally up to you to use that. Um so this is another picture. It looks like backwater पे boat के through खींचा हुआ, या फिर another shore से खींचा हुआ picture, where you can see there's a छोटू hut जहाँ पे light lit up किया है, वो light का reflection नीचे पानी में गिर रहा है. You can see the motion blur happening on the water surface also. and the obviously the image is shaky, which has been captured at low light. So मेरा light का जो source है, that light source will obviously, like, more the light, more the details. So that principle has come out in the picture very nicely. You can see जहाँ जहाँ पे light है, those parts are properly uh, solid and अच्छे detail वाले. जहाँ जहाँ पे light नहीं है, वो वाला parts are pretty much blurred, which has like nice blue color ka hue in it. And obviously it's creating a nice contrast, like the home is warm, the home is lit up with the warm colors, and the rest of the world is blue, which is like obviously it's a depiction of sad. It comes into the sad category of colors. So yeah, which is, it's a brilliant picture. Let's head out to the next image. Oh, okay, so we are done. So yeah, this is the contest, guys. You have to click your pictures on slow shutters. Just make sure the motion, the depiction of slow shutter should be there in the image. You can use light trails. You can click star trails also. You can create stories by using slow shutters. It's so completely up to you. You have freedom to click on your DSLRs and mobile phones also.
All right, Anis. Thank you so much.
Yeah, all the best, guys. All the best. It was nice talking to you. I hope that like this session helped you guys. So yeah, you can drop in the comments below and let us know